Next is Mr. Dyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to everyone who's taken the time to speak here tonight, as well as send us emails, texts, Facebook posts, tweets, and yes, old-fashioned phone calls. I enjoy those especially. I like hearing people. This is the most important vote any of us will ever take on City Council, and I agree with my colleague, Mr. Young, that this is the most important vote that has ever been asked of any Green City Council, in my opinion. And it's good that it's before this one, because this council is among the most prepared and qualified this city's ever had. So I don't approach this lightly, nor do I condemn any of my colleagues who have to make this tough choice. All I can do is explain why I will oppose this agreement tonight. For 3 years now, politicians and Green have agreed on one thing: Nexus is a terrible blight on our community. It is dangerous, both to us and the environment. It will cause harm to our community, and it has the potential to cause tragic mass casualty events. We all told you, the people of Green, all 26,000 souls, that we would fight this pipeline to the bitter end. In Churchillian fashion, we all gave various versions of the "we will never surrender" speech, though certainly not as eloquently as Mr. Churchill. No elected official or candidate ever told you, the people of Green, that we would cut a deal with Nexus. In fact, until 5 days ago, some of us had to defend our honor against the scurrilous accusations of a Nexus appeasement. Whisper campaigns suggesting that candidates would cut a deal with Nexus were met with swift indignation. The mayor gave a memorable speech late last year in which he said Nexus would have to pry their easements from his cold, dead hands. And the mayor was not alone. We agreed. In fact, this is the one issue I think all of us, regardless of party, gender, race, age, marital status, or any other factor, could agree upon. Move the lines or fight every way possible to try. That's why I can't see my way to support this agreement. Because I couldn't look at my kids, wife, friends, or neighbors again in the eye and tell them I did everything I could to keep Nexus out of our parks. Because this agreement stops us short of that promise I made to my fellow citizens. Our federal government let us down on this issue. Our state government let us down on this issue. I'll be darned if I'm going to let your local government let you down on this, our city's most important issue. It's also why I oppose the city's decision not to directly oppose the FERC certification. Yes, it would have been a tall order to overturn. But imagine if we had another appellate court case now to which we were a party that challenged the pipeline location too. Think Nexus might be even more eager to listen to reason? As for the agreement itself, the money may seem like a ton on first blush, but it will essentially pay to relocate ball fields we already have. The net result is the same number of fields, maybe even fewer, that we have now, except we don't know where we can put them. We will have several seasons of limited ball field access as we try to figure out where to put the fields, how to acquire the land, and how to build them. At the end of the day, I'm looking at that $7.5 million offer as a wash. In fact, our expert legal team has zero experience making these deals, and that is not a knock on them. Few in the country have experience making these deals. The parkland is also not a bad thing in and of itself, except it will be located at ground zero in the blast zone. While I like the idea of having pedestrian access to Bettler Park, I'm not enthused that in order to get there, our residents will have to walk through a blast zone. The additional measures, I fear, do not give us any real authority to control the pipeline's construction or operation. But all we'll have the ability to do is tell other entities who have failed to hear our previous pleas on Nexus, which, by the way, we will probably be able to do anyway, even without this agreement. We just have to sue Nexus to follow our laws, making their life hell for the hell they have wrought on our community. I like the idea of safety training for our first responders, but if Nexus is willing to provide safety forces training, that tells me perhaps they are less certain of their pipe's safety than they let on. Finally, I know we have a very small chance of moving the pipeline for our parks. I get it. I understand that we may be left with the same predicament, pipelines in the parks, only now without $7.5 million or 20 acres of land or the other protections. But I also know we have zero chance to move the pipeline out of our parks if we take this deal. And I can't live with those odds. What is the story of America but that of the underdog? Are our chances of winning better than the representatives of 13 tiny colonies deciding to fight and defeat the greatest army in the world? The underdog is the American story. It's why we spend billions of dollars watching stories of tiny mythical hobbits destroying all-encompassing evil, or spunky rebels defeating empires, or fictional boxers from South Philly holding their own against champions. While Tom Brady barely missed hitting Gronk with a Hail Mary Sunday, in the same stadium 3 weeks earlier, the Minnesota Vikings won a playoff game on the last play of the game with a 20-yard pass that became a touchdown because two defenders collided freakishly to turn loose the receiver who caught the ball. I don't want to give anyone the impression that I think we'll definitely win here. In fact, we most likely will not. But we have to try. We have to overcome. We have to fight, because that's what we do. And you know who else thinks we might win? Nexus. It's why they gave us a fairly large offer. A company like that is not cutting multi-million-dollar checks to cities if they think it's a foregone conclusion they'll have the land in 3 months for pennies. They're worried, and that's good, because they should be. Our city is an amazing place. The support we give each other in tough times is remarkable. I've seen it firsthand. But more than anything, we have a city of fighters. We fight for our kids. We fight for our community. We fight for our principles because we are, after all, bulldogs. We as a city council must match our community's trademark tenacity and send Nexus a unified message. Never, ever, for any amount of money will we stop fighting you. We will fight you in our fields. We will fight you in our streets. We will fight you in our parks. We will never surrender.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer. Mr. Shaughnessy.